The Nats Chat end-of-season podcast party is from 7 to 9 p.m. on Friday, October 2nd at Walters, the official bar of the Nats Chat podcast. Al, Tim, and I will be there, ready to hear your opinions about the Curtis Mead trade and everything else that's happened in the second half of this season. Again, that's Friday, October 2nd from 7 to 9 p.m. at Walters.
Hi, Ryan Reynolds here for Mint Mobile. Are you looking for a beach read this summer? May I suggest your big wireless bill? It's got suspense, mystery, a slightly flat, emotional arc, and a shocking twist where you realize you've been overpaying the entire time. Fortunately, though, Mint's story is better. Every plan, $15 a month, even unlimited. That's it. Happy ending, zero tears. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.
Shop the Sherwin-Williams sale and get 30% off Duration, Superdeck, and Woodscapes products August 14th through the 24th. Whether you're refreshing your interior or exterior, we've got the colors to bring your vision to life. And with delivery, getting everything to your door is easier than ever. Shop online to have it delivered or visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store. Click the banner to learn more. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details. Delivery available on qualifying orders.
Now Trevor Williams coming set. Bases loaded to pitch. Swung on, line drive, left field. That's a base hit. Lopez scores. Rounding third. Ramirez coming home. The throw to the plate. Dribbles in. It's not in time. He scores standing, running through the plate. Stopping at second base is Heriberto Hernandez. Xavier Edwards comes through, the cleanup hitter, with a 2-run single to left, scoring Lopez and Ramirez. And the Marlins have regained the lead here in the bottom of the 5th inning. It's Miami 3 and Washington 1. The pitch. Breaking ball squibbed in front of the plate. Catcher Mack out to get it. He turns, he fires to first to Conine, and the game is over. And the Marlins do it again. They complete a 3-game sweep of the Nationals here at Lone Depot Park, and they have beaten the Nationals for the 8th consecutive time in the season series. Nationals will go home with a 1-8 road trip.
And welcome to Nats Chat. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. I'm joined by Washington Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman of NatsJournal.com. You know, maybe we moving forward should differentiate between which version of the 2026 Washington Nationals we're talking about. You know, there is the version that through 108 games was 55-53, and then there is the version since then. Kind of like BC, AD, something like that. I don't know, but there have been two very different Nationals teams in this one season. The Nats have gone from being 2 games above 500 to now being 10 games below 500, and this has happened in less than a month, from 55-53 to now 61-71, just 6-18 over the team's last 24 games, just 2-15 over the team's last 17 road games. A 6-2 loss at the Miami Marlins on Sunday afternoon, concluding a 3-game sweep and concluding a 1-8 road trip. The end of MLB's 2026 regular season is 5 weeks away, Sunday, September 27th, and you wonder if the Nats now are counting down the days. The offense has gone ice cold. We know why. The Nats' 4 best hitters this season have been outfielder James Wood, shortstop C.J. Abrams, first baseman Luis Garcia Jr., and infielder Curtis Mead. Garcia and Mead, of course, have been traded. Wood and Abrams, of course, are injured. But, you know, it is still remarkable what has happened with the Nats offense going from being so good to being so bad. I mean, the Nats over the 3 games at the Marlins over the weekend totaled 6 runs. The Nats scored just 2 runs in each game. The Nats on this now completed 1-8 road trip totaled just 20 runs, including just 14 runs over the 8 losses. We understand what has happened. We understand why what is happening, but I don't know that makes, taking this in any easier. This is rough, man, what is happening with this Nats offense right now.
I think the way we need to abbreviate this maybe is BT and AT, before the trades and after the trades. And suppose you could throw in, BTI, before trades and injuries, after trades and injuries. That's essentially what it is. Now, you make a good point here, which is, yes, of course, the loss of those guys has made a huge difference. But that can't be the only thing. There were other members of the lineup who were producing for them. There were, believe it or not, members of the pitching staff who were helping them win games prior to all of this. So it's not just as simple as losing the production of those traded/injured players, but it does probably give some credence to the idea of lineup protection. It's always a controversial topic, but if you have a CJ Abrams, you have a James Wood, certainly Luis Garcia and Curtis Mead as well, you have them in your lineup, it makes the other team have to approach you somewhat differently. Okay, I'm not going to let this guy beat me, or I'm going to pitch around this guy to get to that guy. Well, right now, there's nobody in that lineup that an opposing pitcher has to fear. They don't have to game plan for anybody. There's no protection for anybody. And I wonder if in some way that is leading to some of the other players' struggles. Like, who's the guy right now in that lineup that if you're the opposing team, you're saying, well, don't let him beat us. There is nobody like that right now. And you're seeing the results of that. And it really has not been a pretty thing to watch. And eventually it should get a little better. We do expect Abrams and Wood to come back. Abrams, hopefully within a matter of days. Wood within a few weeks or something like that. But in the meantime, they have to dig deep. They have to find some way, whatever that is, to get something going and strike at least a little bit of fear into opposing pitchers' minds, because right now there is no fear at all facing them.
There isn't, and I brought this up with Tim on the last installment of the podcast, but it's really disappointing that no one is, as the cliche goes, stepping up. No one's emerging. No one is stepping forward. There is so much opportunity right now for players to step forward, and really nobody's doing it. Now, at times we've seen some guys do some good things, and, like somebody like Abimelec Ortiz, I think deserves credit for overall having been good since he was brought to the majors, although lately he's cooled off a bit. Andres Chaparro, the last month and a half, 2 months, has done some very good things. But overall, it's really underwhelming what we've seen from these guys here with this opportunity, with all of these major bats missing. Somebody please step forward, and nobody's doing that right now. Now, regarding CJ Abrams, so he now has been out for 4 consecutive games due to a sprained left ankle. At what point do we say the Nats made a mistake in not putting him on the 10-day injured list?
One more day, I'd say. We're now past that point. You can only backdate it for 3. So if they do make the move, it's going to cost them more than 10 days in the end. If somehow deep down, they know he'll be good to go on Monday when they get back home, okay, I can live with that. I'll give you day 5 as like the maximum that you can afford to go with an empty spot essentially on your bench, a guy who can't play at all. You get past that 5-day point, I'm not sure what the point is of dragging that on. Now, unfortunately, I'm not there in Miami. I didn't get to see firsthand what he was doing pregame or how he looked and talked to him. So I don't have a whole lot of sense of where things stand there, except to say that this is not supposed to be anything that serious. Maybe they're keeping him out of the lineup so that he can work on second base, so that he's ready to come right in there and play as soon as he's good to go. I just don't have the answer to that. I'm not sure if that's in the cards or not, but it just, like one thing on top of another. Talk about the last thing they needed and the last time they needed that to happen. It just really kind of derailed everything that was already headed down such a bad path to begin with.
Yeah, just a lot of things going wrong for the Nats in these recent days. So when it came to the offense in this 6-2 loss at the Marlins on Sunday afternoon, just 2 runs, just 5 hits, which were 3 doubles and 2 singles, 1 for 11 with runners in scoring position. The Nats did draw 3 walks. It did get a 2-hit game from Dylan Cruz. Only one Nationals player had at least 2 hits in this game. That player was Dylan Cruz. He was the Nats starting right fielder and number 3 batter. He went 2 for 4 with an RBI double and a single. Cruz in the Nats' 1-run 4th had a 1-out RBI double to left center field off the warning track on a 1-2 pitch to tie the game at 1. Jorbit Bibas, he is the Nats' starting third baseman and number 6 batter, 1 for 4 with an RBI double. Bibas in the Nats' 1-run 6 had a 2-out RBI double to right center field off the outfield wall to cut the Nats' deficit to 3-2. But you know what? When we are highlighting the offensive work of Jorbit Bibas in our portion of the conversation discussing the Nats offense, that's kind of a sign that things are not going so well with the offense right now. And that was about it for the Nats offense in this game. Just 2 runs in each game. in this series. The home run has basically evaporated with this team. Daylen Lile did have the Nats' other double in the game. He was the Nats' starting left fielder and number one batter, 1 for 4 with a double and a walk. But, I mentioned Abimelec Ortiz having cooled off. He was the Nats' starting DH and number 2 batter. He went 0 for 5 with a strikeout. Jose Tena was the Nats' starting second baseman and number 5 batter, 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. Nasim Nunez as the Nats' starting shortstop and number 8 batter, 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. On and on we can go. Just not a lot happening offensively in this game, not a lot happening offensively in this series.
We talked earlier in the year, not that long ago, actually, when you looked up and down the lineup and read off the OPSs of these guys, and you had several in the 900s, several more in the 800s, a lot of guys in the 700s. I'm looking at this one from today's game. There's one guy in the lineup over 763, and that's Chaparro at 870. We know it's a limited sample for him. It's Ruiz at 763, Ortiz at 730, Tena at 704. Everybody else is under 700. And you go all the way down to Nasim Nunez at 558. Now, I know that Nasim Nunez is not supposed to be an offensive force for them. Okay. 558 is atrocious. And I get that he plays stellar defense and he's going to be their shortstop here at some point. Well, he is their shortstop with C.J. Abrams out. He's going to continue to be that. But boy, you better bring something to the table beyond that. And he's really not at this point. And that is a growing problem. You've got Vivas at 633. You've got Dylan Cruz at 644 for his OPS. I say all this to make this point. This team needs a spark right now. It needs something to get them excited, something new. I'm not saying that calling up a Seaver King or a Trey Lipscomb or anybody else from AAA is going to make a huge difference. But right now, it feels like this team, from an offensive standpoint, is lifeless. And when you're just trotting the same guys out there every day, and they've been going through this slump as a group, you see it in their eyes. They're not feeling it. There's little reason for hope among them. They need somebody to come in and just give them a spark, something to get excited about. It's very hard to get excited about the guys that are in there right now. And again, I don't know that that's in the cards. And I don't even know it's necessarily the right thing to do if you're worried if guys are not quite ready yet to be at the big league level. But to me, it really just stands out. You watch these games, there is no offensive spark at all. You just wonder if somebody else could come in and provide some kind of lift that they just don't have right now.
Seaver King, shortstop for your AAA Rochester Red Wings, has an OPS of 966. Trey Lipscomb, a third baseman for your AAA Rochester Red Wings, has an OPS of 892. Now, we have seen the Trey Lipscomb experience at the major league level and been underwhelmed. That is true, but it's also possible he has gotten better. But with Seaver King, I mean, he's one of the Nats' top prospects. Unless there is a service time concern here, I don't know what the argument is against bringing him up to the majors now. Now I know it's not always just about stats. I get that, but he seems to be doing really well. And with this offense, not doing well, and with, no one really blocking King at shortstop at this point, if you're moving Abrams to second base, Nasim Nunez is a nice depth piece. He's not your long-term guy at shortstop. We all understand that. Boy, calling up Seaver King would seem to make a lot of sense, again, unless there is a service time concern, which I think you always have to wonder about with a top prospect. If you're Nats president of baseball operations, Paul Taboni, are you just looking not to burn precious service time days in the dying days of what's looking like a lost season at this point?
I think it's fair to bring that up, and maybe that plays some role in this. But I've also gotten the sense that there's still a question of his readiness. He's still only 2 years away from being drafted. Now, he was out of college and he was always expected to be a fast mover, but he doesn't have a ton of time at AAA. There is also some question about his defense and whether he really is a big league shortstop or not. And that, I get all that. What I would say to counter that is he's on a heater right now at the plate, the likes of which you don't get that often. And sometimes, even if a guy isn't ready, even if he doesn't necessarily profile in the long run as a huge contributor, sometimes just being hot can carry over from one level to the next. And you risk losing that if you wait to bring him up. Maybe he would struggle. Maybe it wouldn't do any good. Maybe it would hurt him in the long run. I don't know. But especially if Abrams is not ready to return in the next day, I don't know what the argument would be against it to give it a try. Yes, you're using up a 40-man roster spot. I get their considerations beyond all that. But are you saying right now that you're prepared to go into next year with Abrams and Nunez as your middle infield? If Seaver King's a part of that equation, why not get a look at him now and find out if he has the goods or not? And maybe you can ride that hot hand that he's playing right now at AAA and have that carry over at the big league level.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Nasim Nunez, what is fair to say at this point is you cannot go into next season with him as your number one shortstop. You can't go into next season with CJ Abrams as your number one shortstop. I do believe the Nats need to get him off of shortstop, get him to second base. But Nasim Nunez cannot be the everyday replacement. Again, Nasim Nunez to me at this point is a nice depth piece. But the offense is so bad. And, the defense, and we've talked about this, his advanced defensive numbers are not as good as you might think. So, I wonder sometimes if maybe we're a little too kind when it comes to this defense. That maybe, we get seduced by the standout plays, but maybe on a play-in, play-out basis, he's maybe not the player we perceive him to be. It is interesting. The advanced stats for Nasim Nunez don't blow you away. Not that those stats are everything when you're judging defense, but, we do like to look at them. They are part of the CJ Abrams conversation in terms of why he's being moved off shortstop. And, the Nunez advanced defensive numbers are not outstanding. And so I don't think you can go into next season with him as your number one shortstop. And so, yeah, I mean, at this point, you would think Seaver King would be a prime candidate for that spot with, of course, long term, the eye being on Eli Willits. And, Willits, the way he's going, maybe he's your number one shortstop by, the end of next season. Maybe a year from now, we're talking about Eli Willits being at the major league level. But in terms of the now and the at least early portion of next season, you would think Seaver King has an at least decent shot here of being the Nats' number one shortstop.
Well, because if not, now you're going outside to look for somebody to bring in next year. And that's not where they want to be. When you have that much middle infield depth in your organization, the last thing you want to do is go sign a free agent who would be temporary and not part of the long-term plan. So, yeah, at minimum, King has to come to spring training and have a shot at winning the job to show if he's ready for it, if he's up for that or not. And so if you're already thinking in those terms, then why not get a little glimpse of it now? And, maybe it doesn't happen right now this week. I would hope at some point in September it does happen. There's not a whole lot of reason to hold off beyond that, I don't think, as long as he keeps performing in Rochester as he has. If the rest of this season, because Lord knows it's not about winning, if the rest of this season is about finding out what you've got to set the stage for 2027, I think you need to find out what Seaver King is and whether he is a part of your plan on opening day 2027 or not.
Al Galdi here to tell you about Window Nation. But before that, the Window Nation look into the future.
The 0-1. Fly ball lifted deep to left field. Squires back on the warning track. That one's gone as well. Seaver King homers for a fourth straight ball game. Third consecutive contest at Warner Park. And that balloons the score to 10-3 in favor of Rochester. The Red Wings have plated 4 runs in the top of the 7th.
For replacement windows and doors without the hassle, just look up Window Nation. Window Nation is the real deal. Homeowners across the country love the one-day installation process, especially since Window Nation installers leave your home cleaner than when they started. And this month, you can get 50% off all window styles, plus 0 down, 0 interest, and no payments for 2 years. That's a lot of savings on top of quality windows and doors. 866-90NATION or windownation.com, and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast. Window Nation, the real deal when it comes to replacement windows and doors. 866-90NATION, windownation.com, and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast.
If you're like me, you're the kid who savored every last drop of sugary milk at the bottom of your cereal bowl while watching Saturday morning cartoons. Kachava's new flavor, Cinnamon French Toast, gives you a bit of that classic nostalgia. And I love that it's made with real cinnamon bark. It's a comfort flavor, but with benefits and without the sugary drawbacks. There's no artificial colors, flavors, or sweeteners. It's non-GMO, there's no soy, there's no animal products, no gluten, and no preservatives. But Kachava does provide all the nutrition your body craves in one deliciously simple shake with just 2 scoops. So treat yourself to a childhood favorite. Go to Kachava.com and use code SPORTS for 15% off your first order. That's Kachava, Kachava.com with code SPORTS.
Did you know that driving under the influence of marijuana is illegal? Driving high will get you a DUI. And if you're wondering if law enforcement can tell you're driving high, well, everyone else can. Friends?
I can tell you drove high.
Parents?
I can tell when you drive high.
Relatives?
I can tell. You drove here high, didn't you?
So what makes you think law enforcement can't?
I can tell.
If you feel different, you drive different. Drive high, get a DUI. Paid for by NHTSA.
The long set, Kent to the plate, and a swing and a drive, left center field deep. Jacob Young going back to the warning track. He climbs the wall, and he caught it! He caught it at the top of the fence. The runner, Lopez, is around toward third. This is going to be a double play. The throw to Chaparro. He steps on the bag, and Jacob Young has robbed the Marlins here this afternoon. What a catch by Jacob Young. It turns into a double play, and the inning is over. He scaled the wall and caught it right at the top of the fence. What a play by Young.
Well, we mentioned defense, a bright spot for the Nats in this game. Two standout defensive plays. How about what center fielder Jacob Young did in this game? Bottom of the third, a spectacular leaping backhanded catch as he climbed the outfield wall a la Spider-Man for a deep flyout by Heriberto Hernandez, and then fired the ball to first base to double off Otto Lopez for an 8-3 double play to end the inning. Just a sensational play by Jacob Young. And left fielder Daylen Lile, we've talked about his improved defense. Bottom of the sixth, a leaping backhanded catch in left field as he crashed into the outfield wall for a leadoff flyout by Javier Sanoa. But two really impressive defensive moments. And Jacob Young, he finds new and different and varied ways to impress you in terms of catches at outfield walls.
Yeah, we've seen him rob homers. This was a little bit different. I'm not sure it actually was a home run. But that wall at Lone Depot Park is not that short. He legitimately climbed the wall to get to a point where he could hang on to the top and make that catch. That's so difficult to do. And this wasn't one where he just leapt from the ground and made the catch. This wasn't an acrobatic play necessarily like we've seen before. This was just literally climb the wall, Bo Jackson-esque. Climb the wall and make the catch and have the presence of mind to then come down and fire the ball back into the infield for the double play. Fantastic. It had been a while since he had one of those, so it was nice to see him do it. And Daylen Lile, we've mentioned this, all the improvements he's made in the field this year, and I keep coming back to this idea. He was terrified of the wall last year as a rookie. You saw it. He just could not make those kind of plays. He looked tentative. He wouldn't just not make the catch, but then the ball would get away from him and it would add extra bases to the whole process. To see him so confidently go back on that one and make that play, it's just a reminder of how far he's come. And I know offensively it hasn't been a continuation of what he did last year, but it has been really important, I think, the defensive development, because we really didn't know if we had that. And we were talking about him in the offseason coming into spring training as like, is this guy going to have to be a DH at age 23? Well, the answer is no. He can be a good defensive corner outfielder. He's shown the ability to improve there. Now it's a matter of getting back on track offensively, and they may still have something with him.
Yeah, and Jacob Young is just so comfortable with outfield walls. Like, he does not shy away from them. I feel like he seeks out the contact in a lot of ways. And, in this case, he's climbing it and just looking right at home. Well, the Nats pitching in this 6-2 loss at the Marlins on Sunday afternoon. So the Nats starting pitcher was Jackson Kent. He again did some good things, but again put a lot of guys on base. Officially allowed 3 runs in 4 2/3 innings. He gave up 4 hits, which were 2 doubles and 2 singles. Issued 3 walks. Did record 5 strikeouts, but all of this added up to him over his 4 2/3 innings, throwing 90 pitches, although he did throw 59 strikes versus 31 balls. But you look at Kent over his 3 MLB regular season outings now, all starts. 11 walks in 12 1/3 innings, ERA of 8.03. Although he is striking guys out, strikeouts per 9 innings of 10.22. And the Nats relief pitching in this game, Two Nats relievers officially combined to allow 3 runs in 3 and 1/3 innings. A bad outing for Trevor Williams. He officially allowed 2 runs in 2 and 1/3 innings, but he allowed 2 inherited runners to score in the Marlins' 2-run fifth. He, to the first batter he faced, issued a 2-out full count walk of Heriberto Hernandez to load the bases, and Williams, to the second batter he faced, gave up a 2-out opposite field 2-run single by Xavier Edwards to left field for a 3-1 Marlins lead, and Williams, in the bottom of the 6th, allowed 2 runs, including giving up a pinch, went out opposite field RBI double by Joe Mack to left field, and Max Kranick allowed 1 run in 1 inning. The Nats pitching really wasn't the problem in this series, but the pitching in this game wasn't particularly good. Do you think we're seeing enough from Jackson Kent to feel encouraged about what may be to come, or is he still looking to you like a guy who's just not major league ready?
He doesn't really look major league ready. I'll say I think this one was better than the first 2. The first inning or 2, not so good, kind of the same issue, falling behind in the count, walking batters, high pitch count. I thought he got better as it went on, started to get ahead, started to get pitches to land where he wanted them, and then you saw the strikeouts. And he probably deserved to only give up 1 run in this game. He comes out with 2 outs in the 5th, 2 outs, runners on first and second. I know it's not a guaranteed situation, but you don't expect both runners then to score. And so I really put this one more on Trevor Williams than on Kent. In Kent's case, yeah, he's been rushed through this all. There's still some question about, like, can he be effective at the big league level? He's known as a strike thrower, and he's walking batters at a really high rate here. And just watching it, especially those first few innings, it felt like to me that this is a guy who doesn't trust that his stuff is good enough over the plate. And maybe in the minors, he didn't have to throw it over the plate to be effective. He could get guys to chase. They're not going to chase at this level. You've got to show you can put it in the strike zone. So many of those pitches for him started as a ball out of the hand and just moved even further outside or down or up wherever they were. It's got to look like a strike, and I think that's going to be the challenge for him. But I think there was enough improvement as the game went on to feel like, okay, there's maybe a shot at something here. His next start, if everything stays on turn, will come against the Marlins again. After they have 4 games with the Rockies, it'll be the Marlins in D.C. So let's see how he handles that, facing them the second time. To me, and I know it's not worth going too in detail on Trevor Williams, who we know is down to his final month with the organization, but that was really disappointing. Here's a guy who the one thing you can count on him is to throw strikes. Maybe he gives up hits, but he's not going to walk guys. And he comes in and immediately gives up a walk. I think it was 4 pitches, loads the bases, then a hit. He ends up walking 3 and 2 1/3. This is a guy who should not be throwing the ball anywhere nearly as far out of the strike zone as he was. That, to me, was a major disappointment.
Yeah, he did not look good off. Remember, having mostly looked very good since being activated off the 60-day injured list. Man, it is something back-to-back weekends for the Nats against the Marlins. You talk about the dog days of the season. We are in those dog days with Nats Marlins on back-to-back weekends.
Did you know that driving under the influence of marijuana is illegal? Driving high will get you a DUI. And if you're wondering if law enforcement can tell you're driving high, well, everyone else can. Friends?
I can tell you drove high.
Parents?
I can tell when you drive high.
Relatives?
I can tell. You drove here high, didn't you?
So what makes you think law enforcement can't?
I can tell.
If you feel different, you drive different. Drive high, get a DUI. Paid for by NHTSA.
The 1-0. Swing a drive, deep left field for Sanoja. Lile back to the track at the wall. He leaps, he makes the catch, crashes into the fence and holds on. Daylen Lile with a big catch, robbing Sanoja at the fence. That is out number 1.
Next up for the Nats is a 10-game homestand beginning with a 4-game series against the Colorado Rockies at Nationals Park. The Nats have listed the following starting pitchers as probables for the series. Game 1 Monday evening, 6:45, Cade Cavalli. Game 2 Tuesday evening, 6:45, Andrew Alvarez. Game 3 Wednesday evening, 6:45, the Nats starting pitcher to be announced. And Game 4 Thursday afternoon at 1:05, Jake Irvin. The to-be-announced game, that Game 3, Wednesday evening's game, that would be Brad Lord's turn in the rotation. If Lord was going to be the Nats starting pitcher, you figure the Nats would just announce that they aren't announcing that. Makes you think that Lord will not be the Nats starting pitcher for that game. What do you think might be the case?
Yeah, I'm guessing it's not going to be Lord, whether that's a product of the way he's pitched so far since rejoining the rotation. It hasn't gone great, although he was better in his last start. It may be them wanting or preferring a lefty to start that game against the Rockies. Will Dion, who's been really impressive so far in long relief, they've talked about his history as a starter. Maybe they want to flip-flop those two. Maybe Dion actually gets the start and then Lord follows him up. And then the third possibility, they made a waiver claim on Saturday. Matt Waldron, the guy's been around the block with the Padres and then the Blue Jays, a legit knuckleballer. He's not Tim Wakefield throws almost exclusively knuckleballs, but it is his primary pitch that he throws more than others. He's picked up off waivers from Toronto. He has not been added to the active roster yet. You're allowed a couple days to move and to be added. I'm guessing we will find out here that he's been added to the roster maybe on Monday. They have to make a corresponding move to remove somebody else from it. Maybe he fits into that picture in some way, either as a starter or as a reliever as part of a bullpen game. We'll have to see how they go with that. But just the fact they didn't name anyone seems to say to me that this whole idea of, okay, Brad Lord's now a member of the rotation and we're stretching him out to be a true starter, doesn't appear that's happening right now because it just hasn't gone the way they hoped with him. And they may have a better option, honestly, in Will Dion.
We on the podcast offer shout-outs, some messages that you write and we read, $25 each. Think of a shout-out like a message on the scoreboard at Nationals Park. Email us for more info, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. We have this from Michael and Jillian Brown of Camp Hill, Pennsylvania. They would like to wish their son Preston a fun and successful year as he begins his junior year at Weber State University in Ogden, Utah. They also are excited to follow his journey working in professional baseball operations after graduation. Preston began as a bat boy for the Harrisburg Senators while in high school and continues now with the Ogden Raptors of the Pioneer League. Preston and his dad have been listening to the Nats Chat podcast since the beginning. They would listen to Mark and Dal and sometimes Tim recap the Nationals game from the night before over breakfast. They now listen separately, but always ask each other, did you listen to the podcast yet? And debate what Mark or Al had to say. Well, we thank Michael and Jillian for the shout out to their son Preston very much. We wish all the best to Preston. Minor league baseball, man, to work in minor league baseball, that takes commitment, that takes dedication, that takes passion. You can't fake it if you work in minor league baseball. Preston about to do that, so a salute to him.
Yeah, so many young people start out there and have visions of reaching the big leagues, and you may get there, but it is not an easy path. And I don't know, Preston, what your official job title in Ogden is going to be, but I'll tell you from my experience, if you're working in the minor league, especially the low levels, the minor league, you're going to be doing everything, including pulling the tarp during rain delays. It's all part of the job in the minor leagues, but that's what makes it great. And when you do make it to the big leagues someday, as we hope you do, you'll look back fondly on that as your big break to get started. That's a long way from Pennsylvania to Utah. Best of luck to you with that. Thanks for listening. Thanks for making this into a generational thing, passing it down from one to the next. And I hope that you and your dad, when you're debating whether you agree with us, you agree with me way more than you agree with what Al says on the show.
Well, we know that that's not possible. So we know that Preston is a Goldie fan. He has to be, especially if he's going to be college educated, then he's, high IQ guy. So I think I got him in my camp, but who knows? Hey, you tell us what you think. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can find us on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email us natschatpodcast@gmail.com. We have a website that we invite you to check out too, natschatpodcast.com, at which you can buy a Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
It's on the way home and is swinging a high fly ball deep to left center. Back goes Baker to the track for the fence. It is gone. Trey Lipscomb homers. Number 22 for Trey Lipscomb, and there's some insurance for the Wings in the eighth, leading 4-1.